I mean, we've seen so many consulting engagements for both current customers on these platforms, but then net new. And we lead the conversation with outcomes first. So when we're talking about how do you quote your services, what do you sell to your customers, how are you pricing, and then executing on projects. Usually in this professional services world, we're seeing project execution, staffing, time cards, billing as this quote to cash, streamlined experience that we're able to come to the table saying, this is industry best practice. This is how we recommend you go from this maturity level to a far more advanced operating model. And those SOPs and the outcomes for each stage is really where the core of our consulting practice comes from. So, decade of experience now as a Certinia implementation partner, we're a true believer in that being the enterprise grade solution that can really adopt operational best practices for enterprise and mid-market. And so we focus in both areas, which has been just a wonderful experience for us.
Welcome back to the Business Insider Roundtable, conversations that move business forward. I'm Bradley Morgan, and today I'm sitting down with Molly Adams. She's a consultant and partnership strategist at OpMentors, a firm that has spent over a decade helping businesses get the most out of platforms like Salesforce and Certinia. They've even been named as Certinia's Growth Partner of the Year. Here is what makes OpMentors different. They describe themselves as business consultants first and platform experts second. That might sound like a small distinction, but it changes everything about how they approach a client engagement and why some companies that already have the tools are still not getting the results they need. Today, we are talking about how businesses identify the gaps between what they have and what they actually need, how partnerships fill those gaps in ways that pure product implementations just can't, and what it looks like to design solutions around what customers actually need rather than what the software can do. Molly, welcome to the table.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am too. I'm really excited for today's conversation because I think it's really going to challenge how some people think about engagements in general. So OpMentors was born out of a moment at Dreamforce in 2013. A speaker asked who had figured out how to make Salesforce and Certinia truly work, and the founders of OpMentors realized that they had already built something companies actually needed. What does that origin story tell about the problem most businesses are walking into when they adopt these platforms?
I love this opening question. All of our customers are coming to us saying, why Salesforce unification? Why is Certinia the best PSA platform to run my business? And it's that aha moment, right? When the organization was first founded, we're looking at that classic quote to cash life cycle in a services or SaaS company. And our foundation origin story really is mentoring people through that life cycle. And I couldn't be more excited to dive into the why and how we run our business today, really to honor that origin of our founding, but now how we're propelling in the future with innovation.
What a great way to open this today, I feel like. So in our previous discussion, you described OpMentors as business consultants first, Certinia and Salesforce experts second. Most consulting firms lead with the platform, right? But what does flipping that order change as far as results come for clients?
I mean, we've seen so many consulting engagements for both current customers on these platforms, but then net new. And we lead the conversation with outcomes first. So when we're talking about how do you quote your services? What do you sell to your customers? How are you pricing? And then executing on projects. Usually in this professional services world, we're seeing project execution, staffing, time cards, billing as this quote to cash, streamlined experience that we're able to come to the table saying, this is industry best practice. This is how we recommend you go from this maturity level to a far more advanced operating model. And those SOPs and the outcomes for each stage is really where the core of our consulting practice comes from. So, decade of experience now as a Certinia implementation partner, we're a true believer in that being the enterprise grade solution that can really adopt operational best practices for enterprise and mid-market. And so we focus in both areas, which has been just a wonderful experience for us.
I can only imagine. And you talked about mid-market and larger enterprises, and that's a really hard thing to try to hit both of those verticals. So can you give me a specific situation where a client came to you thinking they had a platform problem and it turned out to be something else completely?
Yeah. So platform problems in professional services and SaaS companies, usually around what are the original estimates of the way that we created an opportunity in Salesforce? And then what are the actuals and the outcome that we had with the project? And then they're turning to software to solve that gap. And traditionally, we can diagnose even what are the people, process, and technologies going on in your infrastructure to create consulting engagements around, why are we shaping deals this way? How do we scope and estimate our services? And then how do we execute and bill on those? And a lot of times the conversation is from multiple lenses, the platform and technology, then also the people and the process. And how do we need to coach and train people to operationalize their business at a completely different level than they were before?
And that's a big thing that you just brought up that I think a lot of businesses, and Molly, I'll tell you, I talk to a lot of business owners and businesses in general, that they forget that really, if you're going to implement a process, it needs to be people specific, not tool specific. And I think you just hit a nail on the head there, that a lot of people are thinking it's all tooling, when actuality, we need to pull ourselves out of that mindset and realize, wait a minute, we might actually have a potential people problem or just a process issue. Yeah. And it's a lot cheaper to fix those normally, right? We're not having to sign like 10-year agreements.
Absolutely. From the training and adoption standpoint, we can come into a room and speak to executive sponsors and say, tell us about how you sell and scope, deliver, and bill. It's usually, kind of a 4-prong conversation. And when we're noticing that the people and process handshakes are disconnected, that's where we're coming in with the technology. So at the forefront, we're talking about, how do you collaborate across your enterprise? And then secondarily, can we unify systems? And there's really this bread and butter for professional services operations with Certinia, that we've been able to kind of magnify that Salesforce unified platform conversation. And it makes the tooling that much easier, right? When you have a single place to log in and you can run your business end to end, it's nearly a mic drop moment for us where we say, how do you quote, sell, and deliver? And so when you're backed by great technology, it makes our consulting practice that more fun.
Absolutely. I could not have said it better myself. I've worked in consulting, and I'll tell you, the tooling that's behind you really does help. So I want to talk about your role a little bit though with the organization. Your role spans like pre-sales, scoping, and pretty much the entire life cycle of the customer journey. That's usually in multiple different facets across different people across the organization. So what do you see at the pre-sales stage that most consultants only discover halfway through an engagement?
Well, this is a great question. And that's kind of how we're solving for it. When you come into the room saying everyone sells, it really changes the game for our customers. They know that we can both sell and deliver the right solutions, and finding the right solution fit is really important to us. And so, my role really is up funnel. I love the introduction stage with customers, identifying where they are in their process maturity with both Salesforce and Certinia, or a legacy system that they might be using today, listening for the way that they run their business and the gaps and pain points that can be solved with people, process, and technology. And we actually have taken away the complexity of sales to delivery. And the way that we've done that is generalize our statements of work from a consulting capacity approach. And so you can easily transition from sales to delivery, stay attached to that customer, and you know them intimately from day one, introduction, now into delivery to start solution designing and shaping our project together. And then we bring in lots more consultants along the way for that story. So our managing consultant role really can go from sales to delivery end to end with our customers.
Wow, that's pretty incredible, Molly. That's really interesting. So what is the question you ask in the first scoping conversation that most companies have never asked?
I love this too. So my favorite question is just, how do you make money? And that helps us identify with our clients what's most important. When you're selling software, typically it's what tool to use today and what features are you missing that you wish you had. And then we're having a feature and a platform conversation. And I love when I meet customers just to say, please introduce yourself and what do you sell and how do you make money? And we can usually identify in the services world, high profit, high margin services that we need to design for really intelligently. And then in the SaaS space, I understand their customer service model and customer success. So we learn about their playbooks and how after implementation, they need business process to keep customers retained and NPS high. And so in that professional services world, as an organization, how do you make money? It really kind of cracks that nut up front. So yeah,
Sure.
Happy to share my secret sauce. I'd love for others to start approaching consulting that way because AI is so hot right now. People are just selling features. What do you have right now? And have you added AI, which is a feature, right? Whereas we're still staying core to quote to cash consulting. If you're going to bring a consultant in the room like us, we want to understand why we really here helping you advance your entire company, not just deploy features for your end users.
And that's such a big thing that you just brought forward. I've talked to a lot of people and I've told them, listen, AI is a tool, not the solution. And I think everybody that listens to this podcast, especially whenever I'm hosting, is probably sick of hearing that. I've worked in AI and machine learning. And I'll tell you this, it's a great tool, but it should not be the solution. It should also not be a feature. It's not something that should just be added in because it should be, right? It's something that really should be strategically built, thought of, and actually built to scale. A lot of people right now are just kind of throwing it in there saying, oh, our tool has AI now. Like, really? All it's doing is just looking through your specific knowledge base. That's all it's doing. So I love the fact that you brought that forward, that you're keeping it people specific, cash forward. And that's really how this should operate. So you talk about designing solution strategies to address those gaps and those customer needs, though. So can you walk me through what a gap actually looks like in real business? Not specifically consulting language, if you don't mind, let's keep it very human if you can, but in maybe a day-to-day operational term. What's actually breaking?
Yeah. Human communication. Really. Anything where one team needs to hand off to the next team to get started on a business process. Those are really easily identified for us. We see system fragmentation. Team over here works in the system, and then maybe an email happens or a meeting that occurs monthly happens and handoffs occur. And then that really slows down the ability to grow your business, grow your team, service your customers. And that's mainly where we focus our time. Anytime that, there is a break in process, that's where we can automate.
Got it. So I tell everybody there's a difference between automation and duplication, though. And I worked for a value stream management company for a while. And I was a sales engineer for them. And one thing that I always went on to calls with was, listen, this is automation, not duplication. So how do you guys ensure that it's an automated effort, not just a duplication of data?
Sure. Yeah, this is where the tooling is the value prop. Unified on the Salesforce platform, Certinia is an extension of all revenue operations. So a lot of people know Salesforce as a CRM. You're entering accounts and opportunities and service products about what are in your contracts. When those go closed won, that's where Certinia comes into play. A billable project is created automatically on platform, streamlining that data from one object to the next. We describe it to our customers as files in a single file cabinet, rather than taking files out of one cabinet and putting it into a brand new cabinet. And so when you add Salesforce with Certinia, you have a longer file cabinet with a lot more files. So we take the data about your SOW, we put it in a billable project. People can work on it with time cards, task management, and then send invoices at the end of the month with that exact same on-platform data. All of the time, times the billable rate, creates an invoice and revenue recognition rules all on a single platform. They have a financial management element too. So if you're small in the mid-market space, this is a great tool for you to do end-to-end quote to cash. And that's where we can eliminate those individual human conversations, emails, meetings, and have everyone log into the same system, tracking data from quote to cash. We have a couple other partnerships for larger enterprise customers when they use Salesforce and Certinia for sales and delivery. They have a very large ERP, such as a NetSuite, or QuickBooks even. We have data integration solutions as well with a partner called Celigo, and they understand our mission with that file cabinet structure where we want to make it a seamless handoff of data so that people can be really effective to reduce that duplicate spreadsheet export import activity that a lot of folks see. We help them streamline.
Man, you guys offer so much here. And Molly, you're alluding to my next question here. So OpMentors has built quite a few partnerships, it sounds like. And specifically companies like Moonnox and Celigo to fill those specific gaps in what Salesforce and Certinia alone can't really cover. So how do you decide that a gap requires a partnership rather than a custom build? And how do you find the right partner?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're hearing this in the ecosystem a lot. Buy, build, or boost technology. And when you're hearing these gaps for how do I get data from one to another, you have those options. Buy something that exists already, build something natively in-house if you have the talent and capacity, or boost. Hopefully, maybe the platform has an extension or AI accelerators that might exist today. And so, yeah, when you're making those decisions, it has so much to do with investment, timing, and who might even be on our customer's team. So we never want to encourage building something custom if there's no one on the customer side to maintain those custom build projects. And honestly, within this ecosystem, Salesforce and Certinia is major configuration based, and we want to stick with the core platform capabilities as much as possible. So a lot of times these integrators are really the best way to go. And so Celigo is that partner that we chose that can bring in HR data, financial data, bring system information all into a single hub. And we're really excited about that partnership this year. They're fantastic people and a really great fit for OpMentors.
That's fantastic. It sounds like you guys have found like a good partnership, but let's talk about the bad ones. What does a bad partnership look like? Like maybe the one that sounds right on paper, but doesn't actually close the gap for clients. What does that look like?
Sure. Yeah, it's a partner that's bringing add-on solutions that are trying to continuously sell to customers when they're not ready. Those are the types of partners that we deprioritize, I guess would be an interesting way to put it. I like to have lots of tools in my toolkit, but we really focus on selling to customers at the time that's right for them. So all of our clients are on a maturity framework from their kind of discovery to their launch, and then they're on a maturity plan. And we talk to them about where are you today and where can you be in 3 years and 5 years. And we have partnerships that come into the room at the right time on that playbook. So for every account that we work with, we're earmarking where they are and where can they be today. And I'm scheduling when to bring those partnerships in the room. So the other one we're talking about is Moonnox. They're an AI partner for us. And what that looks like is there's a platform that brings contextual information on top of your entire tech stack. So imagine a world where you're an Atlassian customer and you have Jira and Confluence, you have Zoom, you have Salesforce, you have Certinia, and you're trying to automate all of the AI solutions on top. There's someone where we'd want to make sure that they are launched on Salesforce and Certinia, understand their operational framework. They're really mature with robust data governance and understanding so that when we're adding in Moonnox, we're amplifying really high quality data, high business process that's defined and automated and governed. And then we're bringing them into the room too. So yeah, these are great partnerships that understand our framework with our clients. And some of the partnership missteps could be when they're bringing solutions at the wrong time for the customer.
That is such an important thing that you just brought forward, is the fact that it's not always the right timing for everything. Right. And bringing in those strategic customers at the right times, I believe, is one of those things that a lot of partnerships and consultants just don't do properly. They try to build the playbook before the plan is even put together. So the fact that you guys are doing that says a lot about the organization and the planning and the thought, and not even just that, but the care that's actually put into it. I just love hearing this. So we're talking about bringing things in at the right time and the right place, right? Where do most technology consulting engagements actually fall apart, and why does it keep happening?
Good one. Fall apart can occur from a change management perspective internally. We actually talk about this a bit on our own podcast with customers when they come on and reflect about their time with us. And it can go off the rails when it comes to managing change. And that can be from a systems perspective or data and reporting. or even a long-term training plan. When you say, these are all of our users in the system today, what happens if we acquire another company and need to train a large group of people on this system all at once? Or what is our long-term training plan for new hires? If they're brand new right out of college and we need to teach them business training and platform training, what would that look like? Compared to seasoned veterans who know how to sell, they're in Salesforce today and they do sales to service handoffs with Certinia really easily.
Sure.
And so it's kind of the long term, right? Launch doesn't mark a project complete. You have to be really thoughtful about long-term change and adoption. And we're seeing in the ecosystem, folks are focused on, even 6 months to 1 year of adoption. And we really take a consultative long-term approach with, call us back in 3 years, call us back in 5. This is what you'll need to stay upgraded consistently. And we're your partner. If M&A becomes a part of your strategy, just give us a call back. It's no problem. So I think being OpMentors, that brand, is really helping us from a relationship standpoint of, you don't have to have a billable engagement with us. We're humans just on the other side too. Always call, always ask, and we help and we storytell, and the consulting's in our DNA. So that's how we kind of lead all of our engagements as well.
I thought it was really cool what you just said. So the name is more than just a name. It's also the vision, the personality. It's everything of the organization. And that's just really such an important thing that a lot of people are lacking too. So what is the thing clients consistently underestimate about that change management? Like that side specifically, maybe the people part, maybe not so much the platform. You gave a little bit of a hint saying, hey, that tends to be the biggest issue. Let's pull that apart.
Yeah, the documentation, SOPs, is huge in our industry. People are relying on tooling that can scrape a video recording and grab screenshots and create instructional guides. But that falls short when you don't think about the DNA of the humans inside your company. So when I lead change management work streams on some of our projects, half of the conversation is tell me about your people. And if the stakeholders don't understand their employees, you can see it pretty quickly, right? Unable to answer if people are learning in a classroom style, face-to-face or over a Zoom. How's that going? Do they need on-demand support in Slack or side-by-side? So that is falling short in a modern world. In consulting, we're relying on technology, knowledge bases, self-help. And I'm noticing the human interaction is falling short. So anywhere that we can encourage that when it makes sense from an investment standpoint, we're going back on site again to train large groups of people like it used to be pre-Zoom, pre-full remote workforce days. So I think people have a desire for connection, and it's falling short when we're ignoring the emotional side that you have to unlearn when you're going to learn something new. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's peer-to-peer and just I've got you and a handshake and a warm hug. And that aligns with our mentor brand as well. Just acknowledging change is hard. And that really comes to the forefront of our projects, that we make sure we're there for people.
So the biggest thing that I'm kind of gathering from this is that your business has an identity at this point, right? So what does a business look like on the other side of well-designed solution strategy? You guys have created this identity of well-designed solution strategies, change management, training, and it's not just about software metrics, right? What I'm looking for more is about the actual operational change. What can they do that they couldn't do before after you guys have come in and finished your engagement?
Yeah, they can focus on their customers and less time hands on keyboard. They really can feel a difference in the way that they deliver for their customers. Because think of a classic project manager logging into a system, updating the start date of a project and the deliverables of a project in the system, and managing people and time cards and creating a status report. Those are all activities highly valued in those roles. But once you work with OpMentors and roll out Certinia to be your PSA implementation, you can feel a dynamic shift in the way you service your customers. You spend more time in meetings, listening to them, working with your clients, and less time hands on keyboard. When that data is automated and you trust it, the delivery quality, you really experience that on the other side of the table. We try to make operations invisible, right? The seamlessness of the system should be point in time, log in, do a few things. but then spend far more of your day with your customers doing your projects and way less time working on running the business and the hard administrative tasks. Kind of the worst thing that we could see is you work with OpMentors and your project managers are still spending hours creating status reports. And now on the other side of this, afterwards, your customers are so happy. They know exactly where projects are. They know they have a team staffed, and they're never feeling that pain of on a Friday asking a project manager, how many hours do I have left? I'm dissatisfied with this and I can't feel the value. If you work with us, your PMO value goes up. It's just, and your consultants know what to work on and that they have the capacity to execute on that. It's almost like a breath of fresh air.
And I'll tell you what, I've worked in many consulting agencies where I've had a lot of that same exact feedback, right? So it's really great that you guys are really tackling this straight on and saying, no, we actually can deliver value. We can actually do these things. So it's really great to hear that you guys are more than just a brand. You're also an image. So that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So let's dive maybe a little bit more under the surface here. So you host your own podcast. What made you decide to build an audience through a show rather than a more traditional, probably business development approach? And what has it taught you about how people actually buy consulting services?
This is great. Well, first, Next Gen ProServe was created just this last year out of two main areas. Case studies and referrals in a PowerPoint presentation trying to win a brand new customer. That trust is not there. They're just words on a page. So I really wanted the voice of our customer to be recorded on video, live, and on demand. So that podcast is there on YouTube. They can see the videos and see everyone's face, put faces to a name. Second was Next Gen ProServe. I was really fortunate to start my career in an internship program here in Cleveland, Ohio. And those interns learned side by side and had this amazing professional services training opportunity as consultants. And now post-pandemic, I'm just seeing a shift in the world and I wanted to reach back. And it's time to train the next generation of professional services consultants out there. And a big piece of learning to be a consultant is listening and storytelling and applying what you know to what other people have experienced. So, storytelling is another piece of the OpMentors mentorship brand. That those two reasons, right? Selling experience that was new, and then a way to also give back. And people are joining the podcast, telling their story for the first time as a rising executive. Brand new CEOs are joining, brand new professional services leaders are joining. And they're reflecting on their time too. So it's been a really wonderful platform. And we're just seeing the return on investment, to be quite frank. It's really nice when people say, I saw you online. I'd love to do business with you. And it's working. So our roots here in Cleveland are really strong. And I can't wait for this to go really national. We have guests from across the country now. So I'm really excited to see what this does for us.
I completely understand how just awesome that feels in general. I've been through a very similar situation where you have people starting to send you their books and are like, can you please read this so we can talk about it? And it's wild and such a really cool feeling whenever you see something that you've built really start to grow and produce value, not just for you, but for other people. And I think genuinely, Molly, I think that's the reason why your podcast is doing well. It's because it's for others, not for yourself. So it's just I'm happy I asked that question and got a little bit of that because it really does. It should be a testament to everybody else that whenever you do things for others, kind of like what OpMentors does, then you're going to see a better return than if you're just in it to try to generate income. For that business leader that's listening right now, who has that technology stack that they spent real money on, but are not getting the value out of it, where should they start? Should they listen to this podcast or should they give you a call? What's the first thing that they should probably consider thinking about before they even do those things?
Yeah, this is a great question because the base of customers in Salesforce and Certinia is actually so large. They've been in business over a decade. So we see people with these investments saying, I need to modernize. How do I start? And what do you look for? My number one recommendation is call Certinia for your customer success manager or your account executive that can go through the adoption framework. That's all there at your fingertips. And it would actually show you, where are you on the maturity scale? Do you have KPIs that you know and trust to run your business? So when the answer is no, that's when you bring us in the room and we'll go through the quote to cash life cycle with you. earmark where you are from a maturity standpoint. We'll identify if this is a people, process, or technology problem. So we can say a really light engagement with OpMentors might just be some data quality and reporting, and you'll be well on your way. Or we might need to go through a training cycle and a new change management approach to get your long-term success going. Or even third, technology. Maybe you haven't upgraded for even 5 years. We have a lot of what we call red accounts or customers at risk for their renewal this year, that all they need to do is simply upgrade their platform to get the best features, modernize it, and then adoption will be on its way too. Yeah, I guess I would say check your version and check your KPIs. When you don't trust that data, that's the time to call out mentors.
That's what a great way to really position the organization. And it seems like there's a lot of questions that people need to think about before they even consider that as well. So thank you so much for that. Now, I think this is my final question for you here, Molly. Time goes by so fast, but what is the thing about designing solution strategies that you don't think gets enough credit in how businesses think about technology investments?
Okay, so the lead to cash process can be complex. And I don't think that the solution designs are highlighting industry best practices enough to simplify them. Typically, it's a contract with a quote, the project and people to execute and bill. And in those solution designs, if the gap is glaring, it's usually pretty obvious. And so that's what I would say about the solution design process and identifying the gap and the unique need. That's where that value really comes from.
Could not have been said better. Molly, this was a really good conversation about something that affects almost every growing business. Right? Having the tools and still not getting the results. Now, everyone listening, you can connect with Molly and the OpMentors team at opmentors.com. Molly, thank you so much for joining today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us and helping us share a story. We're so happy.
And everyone, I'm Bradley Morgan. I'll see you at the next table.